What's up everybody, we're back with another raid guide, and today we're taking a look at Xanesh, the football boss on Mythic difficulty. I'll be going over most of the mechanics, how to deal with them, and our overall tactic for this fight. So for this encounter you want 2 tanks, 4 healers and 14 DPS. Setup wise it doesn't matter too much, you just want to make sure you have enough range interrupts to deal with the ads that spawns on Mythic, but more on this soon. With that said, let's go over what's new on Mythic. The big thing here is the dreaded football mechanic, or rather what's been added to it. To start with, if you fail to hit the goal with one of the orbs and you instead hit a wall, obelisk or a Shara, it's an instant wipe. The dark collapse that triggers when you fail deals around 4.9 million raid-wide damage. So if you fail, everyone dies, so no pressure. To make this even more fun, on Mythic, players that have done one set of orbs cannot do another set again during the fight. And this is due to Void Touched, a debuff that deals ticking shadow damage and makes you unable to become Void Woken again during the encounter. What this means is that you will need 4 to 5 groups with 3 players in them, and no group can ever do the football part more than once. So as soon as one group has finished playing football, they get Void Touched and they cannot do it again. And on top of this, anytime a player that is Void Woken hits the orb, an ad spawns. The Awakened Terror. These ads cannot be tanked, and all they do is cast an interruptible raid-wide fear that also deals around 120k damage to everyone if it does go off. Because of this, you will need an interrupt rotation for each and every ad that spawns, and you never want to spawn more than 3 ads per football phase. We had 3 interrupts per ad. First ad we used our 2 tanks and a melee DPS, and for the second and third ad we used primarily range interrupts, just to avoid having melee run all over to get the interrupts. Players that are doing the football event can and should interrupt the ads that they themselves spawn when they hit the orb. And apart from this, Imminent Doom now triggers after 3 stacks down from 5, but since you're never supposed to hit the orb more than once per player per football group, that really doesn't matter. Before we go over the fight a bit more, I want to talk a bit more about the awesome football event. There are 3 different set of obelisk spawns that you will have to deal with, and these are always the same, so no RNG on that part. First group will always have the same obelisk spawns, second group will always have the same, and third group will always have the same spawns. Group number 4 will deal with the same spawns as group number 1, group number 5 the same as group number 2, and so on and so forth. The only bit of RNG you will have is the spawn point of the orb and the goal, so to speak. If we take this masterpiece of a painting, I've marked out spawn and goal. These two can be reversed, so where the goal is on the picture, you can have the spawn and vice versa. It doesn't change a lot, but it's important to keep in mind. These paintings also indicate roughly how you want to bounce the orb to get it past the obelisk and into the goal. Keep in mind that I do not have a PhD in Microsoft Paint, so some obelisks might not be 100% accurate. And lastly, a few other tips I can give for the bouncing is do not chase after the orb. I know I keep saying football, but you don't need to run after it and kick it. It's far easier if you position yourself facing the way you want it to bounce and let it hit you. The only exception to this is the very first kicker in every group. They should position themselves in front of the spawn portal, facing the direction they want the orb to bounce, and backpedal into it. Seems to make it a bit easier at least. There's also a weak aura that some people use that simply gives you a line in the middle of your screen that you can use to help you aim. Keep in mind though that the orb bounces the instant it hits your character, so you kinda need to aim with your shoulder instead of the dead center of your screen. So if you use the line weak aura, the orb will travel alongside the line, not straight down through it, if that makes sense. Hope it does. Anyways, enough football, let's go over the fight instead. On pull, you want to tank the boss a bit away from the first potential football spawn. So around where we have our skull mark, green mark is where either the football spawns or the goal spawn for the first football event. Keep it there to bait the soul flayers and void ritual, then instantly move the boss to where the first orb spawns, which again will be either where we have our green mark or where we have our blue mark. As soon as the orb is active, the first kicker, if you will, should bounce the orb and you'll have an ad. All DPS should focus down the ad while cleaving the boss and make sure to keep it interrupted. And as I mentioned earlier, anytime a player with Voidwoken bounces the orb, a new ad will spawn. So make sure to keep those interrupted as well. As soon as one ad dies, move the boss to the next one following the path of the orb. Once all ads are down, bait Soulflay, then move boss to the next football spawn locations, which is either where we have our blue mark or red mark this time. Spawn Void Ritual, then rinse repeat. And honestly, that's about it for the entire fight. As long as your football team manages to bounce the orb correctly and you keep all ads interrupted, the rest is fairly straightforward. Other than that, try and bait Soulflays away a bit from wherever you need to be a few seconds later. So for example, if you have a Soulflay a few seconds before you need to run to an orb spawn or an ad, bait it a bit away so you have some distance between it and where you need to be. Always move boss and raid to ads and new football spawns. Spawns will always move one mark ahead per event, going from our marks. First will always be around green or blue, second blue or red, third red or yellow, then back to green or blue for the fourth. And that's pretty much it. Just keep in mind that odds are you will wipe a lot to the football mechanic, and it's very easy to get tilted over it, especially when the raid goes kaboom and you know there's not a single thing you can do about it. But just allow the groups to learn, allow them to fail, and just try to keep the mood up.
He walked off. No. He walked
You're
off.
not gonna wipe less if you start yelling at players doing the bouncing. Of course, if the same player keeps messing it up time and time again, ask why. See if he or she has misunderstood something. We just went in with the mindset, time to go kaboom for a couple of hours, and honestly that helped a lot. As soon as the football groups get it, the boss is dead. With that said, if you have any questions or you run into any issues during your progression, hit me up on Facebook or become a Patreon. As a Patreon, you will get access to my Discord, where you can find things like weak auras, healing notes, these awesome paint pictures of the football event, and a ton of awesome people helping each other out during progression. And it's also the fastest way to get a hold of me. And as always, if you like this video, hit that subscribe button, leave me a like, and ring that notification bell. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.